Welcome to another episode of the Point series. Today we interview two people that are the very fabric of CVA property consultants, and this year marks 30 years since they started. Today CVA is the #1 agency in Victoria for transaction volume, has 4 offices across Melbourne and manages over $5 billion of commercial property on behalf of its clients. We find ourselves at Dutton showroom today where certainly there's a feeling of nostalgia in the room with some cars behind us that are of the same era when the business started 30 years ago. Charles and Ian, welcome to the series and welcome today. Before we get specifically into the CVA story, how did the two of you come to meet each other?
Well, my uncle actually was a property developer, and he'd been doing business with Charles and Charles's brother, and he was the one that organised an interview. I came for an interview. They said something like, "You look okay. Come back when you're 18, and we'll think about giving you a job." So that's exactly what I did do.
As he said, his uncle Steve. Really, I started and did a lot of work with Steve in the early days, which we were based in Fitzroy. Steve asked. My nephew wants a job, in real estate, so okay, here we go again. I was 23 at the time anyway, and we just opened up a southeastern office in Dandenong Road, Oakley, in our Collings brand. And Ian came along, and he still looks very young. Back then he looked like 12 years old. I said, it's going to be difficult to see established clients and so on, but so anyway. As he showed some signs of willingness and enthusiasms.
I have heard there were some, probably somewhat empty threats at the start of Ian's journey where he would have a bad month and he would come into your office and you threatened to send him to property management. That's
right, because most of us did come through the property management sector. Yeah. Collecting rents, it toughened you up quite a bit, but we didn't have that out there, and you had to sort of go straight on the road. And first 6 months, that threat of, mate, you're going to go back into property management, kept him going quite diligently, and he got through that period.
There was one person that I knew that was bailed up against the wall. He was trying to collect some rent off a panel beater in Tullamarine. And, it was a bit of a tough sort of life, and I'd heard this. I go, no, I do not want to do that. I like the idea of being a salesperson, and I'll stick to that.
And thankfully, times have changed now where we don't seem to have any of those situations on our hands in asset management. But and obviously times have changed now. I mean, today I hold an iPad with notes, and we have CRM systems, and we have all of these other systems out there that make the life of real estate and the journey of it and the systems and processes so much easier. So I can't imagine what would have been like back then.
And we did have one of the first car phone when I was probably 19 or 20, which was more than my car cost. For a brand new Commodore was $6,000, this phone was $6,500.
Oh my God.
And the car used to beep when it went off, the horn went off. Yeah. Like, could you imagine being in an appointment and your car's going beep, 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 beep? And it was quite funny, and very few people had them. So we were very much
cutting
edge at the time. That's for sure. All I can remember from it was that as you walked into our office, there was a billboard saying "Caveat emptor," which is buyer beware, and that was the extent of consumer protection in those days, right? So it was quite interesting. There was no documentation. You really had one sheet of paper, which was a contract note, which you peeled off from the REIV and filled out a price, the name, and there you go, you own a property.
Of course, then the world felt the economic crash of 1990. You guys were in the industry. What was happening during that time? And I guess give us a bit of an understanding of what was going on in the commercial property industry.
Well, maybe from the start, some of the big things were building societies were crashing. The State Bank of Victoria was sold to the Bank of South Australia. We're talking about pretty substantial things happening, and most importantly was interest rates were hitting 20%. A lot of our clients were affected. People had generations that been involved in property, they were feeling the pinch.
80% of people got wiped out, so it was starting again.
So obviously Collins Street was where the first office location officially was. You were just noting then that you had 4 staff. What, I guess, commercial property markets or key areas had you identified at that time? Was it just trying to get your hands on whatever you could, or was there a specific strategy in play?
We actually had a lot of clients in those times there was a lot of your traditional retail businesses, the butchers, the fruit and veg retailers, and they had tremendous cash flow businesses. The smart thing to do was to do something with that cash flow and invest in commercial property. And they'd already done quite well, and they were sort of older than us, obviously, and they were just constantly looking to add to their portfolio. So, they might buy 1, 2, 3, 4 properties per year from us. Sometimes that would be our own listings. Sometimes we would source other agents' listings because we knew that that's what the client wanted, and we'd act for them to acquire. And that's how we built up our asset management portfolio.
The knowledge you gained being on the street is what made you wealthy, and being able to identify the opportunities, because you couldn't pick up, or you couldn't log on and see what the sales rates were, and it was just the Age newspaper looking through the line ads, and saying, oh, that sounds good, let's go have a look. And Saturday afternoon we'd be driving around looking for opportunities, and that's the only way you could find them.
Was it hard to break into a market as a new real estate brand at that time?
Not really. It was all that background. It was. CVA stands for Cini, Vinci and Associates, and the Vinci brothers were with us at the time. And a couple of others were very entrenched in the Collings business. So we really just picked up straight off, and were quite successful straight away. And it was our personal contacts. It was all about personal contacts.
So over the journey, there've been some incredibly influential people around you two to help along the way with this growth. Who are those people?
Well, I suppose, from the very start, when we opened the doors, and the concept of the business commenced with the original founding partners, which was Bruno Vinci, Frank Vinci, Vince Lozzaponi, and a little bit later Anthony Carboni, together with Charles and myself. And that was the start.
So obviously Collins Street was where the first office location officially was. I guess commercial property markets or key areas had you identified at that time? Was it just trying to get your hands on whatever you could, or was there a specific strategy in play?
Well, we always had departments. So, because I'd started working in Oakleigh, my strongest market was the eastern suburbs, eastern southeastern suburbs. But, then it sort of worked around the city fringe. We were very good with investment sales. We had a lot of clients that were just buying and selling.
And shortly after that time, of course, then came along head office, which we still have today in Russell Street. And Charles, I think you set to work on quite a aggressive refurbishing program on that asset soon after acquiring it. So talk us through that time.
It was kind of renovating your back shed kind of attitude, to be honest, and sort of turned up every day, let's do that now, instead of really planning it out. And a friend of mine, John Fritzer, who was a fantastic, or still is, a shop fitter, did all the high-end retail stores. He helped me out and really took it on board for me. We really met every morning, say, okay, this is where we're going to go today, and a bit more detail than that, but I left it to him. He did a fantastic job on the building, and was very lucky to have him on board. But it ended up being a great looking building for when we did launch it about 20 years ago now, and very proud of that property and what we've done with it. Embedded our brand and our workplace, more particularly in those earlier days where that was hugely important. Everyone got a nice big office, and we had 25 offices, and we had 15 staff, and said, how the hell are we going to fill this? But within a couple of years we did, and then we added another floor, so now we're 52 people, as you know. So it's been amazing journey.
I think you guys are the only commercial agency in Victoria that has their name on a building in the CBD.
Right.
The rest of them are actually in larger buildings. That's quite a special thing, I think, to be able to say that you've done, and you should be very proud of that.
We've done reasonably well and wanted a new home, and our lease, we were there for 10 years in Collins Street, and the opportunities were there to purchase. So I think what we've got today is exceptional and irreplaceable.
So going into a bit about company growth now, through the 1990s and 2000s, CVA continued to grow its commercial footprint in a lot of the markets. What markets were particularly dominant for the company?
We've always been very strong with business estates. So where those opportunities were available, That's where a lot of our business was done.
Really pioneered the industrial estates. I guess monitoring where the values came back was the most important thing.
Obviously over the 30-year journey and especially in the last 12 years, I've been able to see it firsthand, but it seems like the growth of the business has been premeditated but somewhat organic at the same time. How do you feel that that's taken place?
It was partly planned, but then at the same time you get to a certain position and you can move forward or think of something else. But I like to accomplish things to the degree of absolute. And when I do that, then I start looking for something else. If you've got everything planned out and it's all clicking away, you can afford to get a hit and keep moving.
We now see there's, currently as it stands, I think there's 12 directors in the business that are all responsible for different areas and responsible for bringing the sort of big beast together that it's turned into. What value do those additional directors bring to the table for two founding people like yourself?
Look, it's everything, you know, without the people you can't move forward, you know, and we've had a lot of struggles in that respect, as you know. A lot of people have come through the door and didn't work out for whatever reason, but you've got to keep trying, and you get the right people at the end of the day if you've got the motivation. And we've learnt ourselves what to look for. I think that's very important, and obviously with the help of the directors.
We want to grow. In order to grow, you need good people and you need stability. And I think that was really the key. And I think the object was to have directors in different departments, different sectors, so they can just make sure that they're managing their department. And, you know, that's how the business has grown, I think, especially over the past 4 or 5 years, is because those directors have elevated personally, and that has meant the business has elevated. So that's really the progress.
Saying to two founders of a 30-year-old business that as it stands, for the last 12 to 24 months, CVA has been the #1 agency for transaction volume in Victoria. How does that make you two feel?
You're just as good as your last deal, John.
I think the thing that gets me going the most is competition. And, you know, those sorts of milestones are fantastic, but I want to keep on striving to be better.
I mean, obviously we find ourselves in 2024 now. It's 30 years in business for you too. I know there's a number of things that you're probably proud of in the CVA journey, but what do you think are some of the most proud of when it comes to the last 30 years in business?
For me, it's our culture, you know, and building, again, the tribe. You want to be happy, you want to have somewhere to go, you want a home, and I think that's what we got. It's really painting a full picture for me. That's why we've got people there that are, you know, excess of 20 years and nearly 30 years. It's not just about money, it's about the culture, it's about having the tribe, you know, it's our tribe. We look after each other.
Well, I've certainly felt and been a beneficiary of that, and I know a lot of staff within the business that have been in there, you know, from the last 2 to 15 years have felt the level of mentorship, the amount of support both on a business level and a personal level, and it seems like it has been a particular focus for you guys in bringing that next wave of people through the business and ensuring that they have everything that they need to excel in this industry. So we obviously have to thank you for that.
I did say when the carpet wears out, I'd go. And we are changing it, but I'm not going to go yet. Now that we're changing it, I'll probably stay for a little bit longer.
I don't think you're going anywhere for a while, my friend. Well, it's been one hell of a conversation today around 30 years in business, and on behalf of the CVA staff and obviously all the clientele that you guys have dealt with over the last 30 years, thank you for the level of commitment that you've shown, and congratulations on 30 years in business.